And welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from movies, TV shows, pop culture, try to create them in the real world and test them one-to-one from the media that they come from. Now in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at something that is, I'm not going to say from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, because that's not strictly accurate. It's basically a sickle, a gardening implement, but it is prominently featured in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Death uses them, and I am a big fan of these sorts of weapons in terms of like a scythe or a sickle. I think they're really cool. They have a really cool look to them, and I want to put them to the test, see how it performs in maybe some different scenarios, see if we can recreate some stuff. However, I should say that I am fully aware that it is not a weapon. However, they do look really cool. So I'm going to put them to the test either way, and hopefully they have some sort of practicality and functionality as a weapon. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's episode. Should be fun. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is a really good film. You should check it out if you haven't already. Why am I recommending film? I've always found weapons that have their origins in gardening implements to be fascinating, because there is so many examples, not only in like fantasy, but in pop culture. These are a good example. These are sickles, gardening implements, but they are associated with death in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Or we have something like the scythe, which is used for cutting grass, which is far more commonly associated with death. Then we have other things like the vampire stake. It's just a wooden stake, you know. I want to stake my tent down, that's what I'll use. Then we have other things like the billhook, a weapon of war, which originated as a sort of farming implement. Then we have other things like the ninja kunai, which was a farming implement. There is a lot of them, and they're all pretty good for the most part. It seems no matter how hard you try, if you have a sharpened piece of steel, it makes a really good weapon too. So, the build process for Death's sickles was actually kind of simple. Because these are a ready-made item, I can just purchase them off the shelf. So I purchased the biggest sickles that I could find. Then I decided to char the handle, and this was because I originally intended to keep that handle on and not change it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Then I decided to actually sharpen up the blades a little bit more. To my surprise, these sickles actually had serrations on them, which I wasn't expecting. I expected them to just be a normal edge. So I decided to make the edges a little bit sharper and a little bit cleaner, because when you purchase these sorts of items that are mass manufactured, especially for gardening, they're kind of all over the place. They're just used for gardening. They're not a precision instrument like, let's say, buying a sword or whatever. So because this is more of a fantasy design, I needed to add a secondary edge on the outside of the blade. Obviously, a normal sickle used for gardening wouldn't need this, but because this is Death's sickles, they are double-edged, of course. So this is when I decided to remove the wooden handles and put my own on that was a little bit more accurate to the movies. I used aluminum for it and drilled a hole through it all so that the blade had no chance of going anywhere. On top of that, I used a lot of epoxy, and then I wrapped it in some leather. And that pretty much finishes up the build process for Death's sickles. So with that out of the way, let's get to some B-roll and then to some testing. Alright, so we are here with the sickles, and they are ready to be put to the test. They have edges on the outside and on the inside. They have custom handles. I also have a little bit of a surprise later, something we're going to test with. However, for the most part, this is pretty much what we're going to be doing. Let's see what these things can do to some water bottles, to some pool noodles, how they feel in the hand, how they cut. Honestly, they feel so light at this point. These things are super duper light. But because they have that, you know, basically a 90-degree angle, they should be super aggressive when you actually hit something with them, and they should bite right in and be able to rip and tear. There's only one way to find out, so let's get to it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight through. That is a huge gash. Holy crap, that has serrations on it. The crazy thing is you have no reach. It's literally like that. Like I could reach out and touch them at this point. There's literally no reach to it. As you can see, like it is, I don't think I'm gonna be able to cut it again, but let's just try. Damn, that is some deadly shit. we can recreate. These things, gnarly. Holy. Okay, so honestly, these things absolutely were incredible in those cuts. Far more than I originally thought they would, especially because they have a lot of those little serrations. So why don't we try a pool noodle? Now, a pool noodle is different because with the serrations, actually get caught in things like this. So I'm very curious to see if it's going to sail through as well. But one way to find out. Oh, damn. The sound that makes though is incredible. Oh, these things are a special kind of dangerous. Damn it. I was expecting it to cut. Now I'm kind of disappointed. Like that. I was expecting that. I got the blades caught with one another, which is not a good idea. But apart from that, holy sh**. It's able to smash through water bottles and cut through pool noodles with ease. It actually feels kind of scary how well these things not only slice and cut, but how much leverage I have on that right-angled strike. But to see how visceral that right-angled strike is entirely on the hook, let's grab Tony, because Tony loves this sort of thing. All right, so I'm just gonna strike right here. Now, if this blows through everything, I will be genuinely impressed, because I don't think we've had anything get through everything. I don't think so far, except for like the throwing glaives and stuff, but only because they're like razor sharp. All right, let's try it. Okay, yes, that is what I'm talking about. Absolutely viable shots. Holy shit, oh my God. Oh, damn. So something that's interesting that I've figured out, because we have these serrations and because they actually point this way, when this inserts into something, the serrations actually make it really difficult to get it out. Just an extra little bit of visceral damage, I guess. I can't even, because I want to do a cut on him, right? But I can't even do that because because of that. Damn! That... You die. That's it. We got a Dark Souls screen here. You died. That's it. See, this is where the serrations actually dig in. That's how deep. We got through all the layers of armor and we got that much penetration. That is some crazy shit. For this next little test, I've got Marcus here with me, and this is basically recreating the scene where Death actually catches Puss in Boots' blade in between the sickles. Now, I don't have a live blade to test that with, so I'm going to see just how it feels if I can actually catch them in between the sickles like Death does. Okay, that kind of stopped it, yep. All right. Now, obviously it's a round blade, you know, that's not the same as a sword cross-section. I get that. It's just a general proof of concept is all I'm trying to do. With the sickle blades, do I think that that is the most like super realistic and practical thing? No, I'm just trying it because I wanted to see if it was actually possible to catch a blade in between that little cross-section there. It seems like it was. Obviously it's not a full swing, obviously it's not a sword, there's a lot of caveats there, but I do think that sort of shape would be able to maybe bind a blade for the most part. I did something stupid again. I made this f***ing monstrosity. This thing has two blades going the opposite way and is the same as Death's. stick scythe thing that he has in the movies. This thing is dangerous. This is gnarly. And the reason why is because when you have one blade going away from you, you have one blade coming towards you. So that makes it particularly dangerous, especially when we're talking about those right angles again. So what I'm going to do is, why don't we spin this around a bit? I mean, this is dangerous. Okay, so why don't we spin this around a bit, see if we can do some cuts with it. Holy sh**, look how close that gun. Okay, but I want to keep it there because I don't want it to get near me. All right. Why don't we do some cuts, see how it performs, and then we'll do a little bit with pool noodles, see how it feels in the hand. Wow, that feels terrible. That is interesting. Okay, we will get into that in a minute. All right, but why don't we just do a simple cut with it? I mean, yeah. It can cut. Oh, I mean, this thing is good for getting fruit off, but it seems it's also really good for absolutely obliterating someone. Which is funny because I've always seen the sickles or scythe with death as more of a metaphor than a, an actual physical weapon. And the reason for that is, I mean, death culls people, which I thought was the metaphor of, having like a gardening implement that you cull the weeds with or whatever. Not that people are weeds. I mean, some people are. I'm rambling. Anyways, let's do, holy let's do, holy let's talk a little bit about how this thing works, because funnily enough, because we have these blades, one focusing this way and one focusing that way, it actually means when I spin it, they kind of want to wobble. They want to fall out of edge alignment rather than staying in edge. Like, see, as soon as I do that, they want to go like this. So it feels very wonky actually, which is fascinating. Yeah, see, as soon as you do that, right? Let's say I go for a rising cut. See how close that blade gets? It is crazy dangerous. Oh, and also, maybe it's because it doesn't have proper indexing, right? Maybe because it's round tubes and maybe that's why it wants to fall out of edge alignment so much, but it's such an aggressive, I can feel it in my hand. It's such an aggressive kind of like play in the weight distribution of this thing. And I think that's purely because we have one blade going down, one blade going up, right at the ends, creating a different balance point, right? All right, so with some extra leverage, okay, so the one issue that I have with a weapon like this, not talking specifically about the sickles, because I think the biggest downgrade of something like a weapon like these is simply reach and length. They are so short that if I was to use these without this long extension, if I was just to use them as sickles, pairing them against another weapon like a sword or whatever, I think they are kind of useless. However, there's a big downside to a weapon like this that really pisses me off, because it's actually kind of a common trope with fantasy weapons, and that is having the blades facing two opposite directions. And the reason why this is really stupid is because, let's say I strike with this blade. All good, no worries. This blade is coming towards me, which is the first stupid thing, but the second stupid thing is, what if I want to step into it and hit with the other blade? Well, the edge is facing downwards. So just have two blades facing the same way so you can strike and then you can thrust. Like, there's no logical reason that I can think of, at least, why you would want to have one blade facing one way and the other blade facing the other way. And another example of this is something like Thanos' sword from Marvel Avengers and stuff. The edges face two different it's so stupid. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's episode. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below of what you thought. And as always, I'll see you next week with another episode.